Okay, some of you are like, all right, got to take it in a couple of weeks. Okay, for those of you that just took this test a couple days ago, 3 or 4 days ago, whatever it was, how'd you do? Wasn't a bad test. I didn't think it was a bad test. There were a number of tricky questions, one in particular that was kind of nasty, but it wasn't a bad test. By the way, my name's Mr. Krause. You can call me Mr. Key for the next hour. We're going to be doing parts 2 through 4 in this video. Now, if you haven't tried these video problems yet, don't come here and cheat. It is not going to help you. It's going to hurt you. You need to try these problems on your own, do them on your own, and then come here and get some help. Just like I have a few kids. By the way, I want to give a little shout out to my Brockport kids that came. What do they got? Lainey and, what was the other girl's name? Allie. Lainey and Allie. I hope you guys crushed this test. And then I have a couple of kids from, where in the heck is this school? Bethlehem, New York. I thought it was Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. And this guy, this Merrick in Orlando, they want me to give him a shout out. Well, here's your shout out, Merrick in Orlando from Bethlehem. Hopefully you crushed this test. Hopefully it helped. Anybody else want a shout out? Send me a little message. By the way, hit subscribe, hit the like button. Please stay subscribed to the channel. I really appreciate it. It helps me in the future get things and get recognized on YouTube, which is kind of nice. Let's get down to these problems. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, if you're my student on this problem and you did this, and I'm going to find out on Monday if you did this, and I am going to crush you next year when I see you in school. Like, by crush you, I mean crush you, because you done made me so mad walking up and down those aisles, and I just cringed after I passed by you on how crazy your answers were. And you're going to find out what I'm talking about in just a minute on this particular question. So, I always want to get a highlighter, says, oh, got a two-way table, blah, blah, blah. And then there's this word right here, exact. Exact. We're going to find out what that means in just a minute. So if you add this stuff up, oh shoot, I didn't add all these up. I should probably add these up. Let's go into calculator mode. 83, 110, 83 plus 110 plus 67. Shabam, 260. I don't know why I'm adding these up. 119 plus 103, always odd A's up, plus 54. You'll see why I don't care about these. 276. Now this is, I don't even know, my brain is shot right now, plus 54, 121, that's what I thought. This is 213, and this is 2 carried to 1, 0, 202. I'm just going to check those. 202 plus 213 plus 121, that equals that. Then I'm going to take 260 plus 276, I get 2, all right, so 536. All right, so then it says, state the probability that student response is from a freshman given the student prefers to watch reality shows. So the only thing I'm allowed to look at is reality shows. Can't look at any of this. Can't touch this. So the probability they're a freshman given they like reality shows is equal to 103 over 213. And that problem is done. Oh, no, it says exact. So maybe I should come over to my calculator, do 103 divided by 213, and get the exact probability. There it is, 0.483. If I write all the decimals down, that's got to be exact. No. That's the answer, 103 over 213. That is the exact answer. This answer would be an approximation. Exact means don't touch your calculator. I know I hadn't said that in a while, but exact means don't touch your calculator. All right, next easy question. Next one. I had kids get this wrong. I had kids write the weirdest stuff on this problem. First and foremost, it says we're only allowed to graph from here to here. That's it. So I type this sucker into my calculator. Go into graph mode. I actually have this one now. I can just do it this way. X cubed minus 6x squared I don't even know why they put this on an Algebra 2 test. It's ridiculous. Plus 9x. And if you missed it, ugh, there it is. Oh, Mr. Gross off the graph. Who cares? Go to the table. Control T. Let's see. They got a graph from -1 to 4. There's -1, -10. So -1, -10. 0, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We actually had kids miss the points. 1, 10. 2, 8. 3, 6. And 4, 10. There it is. Now all I got to do is graph. Now I apologize, this is bad. Now, if you graphed straight lines, you screwed up. It had to have some curvature. If you put arrows on the end, you made a mistake. Not going to work. That's the answer, kids. Done. Yes, it was that easy. All right. Express the answer in A plus BI form. All right, let's do it. Well, it's not a candidate for complete the square. Let's get the answers right away. Let's figure out what the answers are right away. We're not going to get any credit for this. We probably won't get any credit for this, but we might as well get the answers. And somebody's like, what are you talking about getting the answers? We're going to go in the menu. 331, Algebra, Polytools, find some polytools. Change this to complex, click OK. 2, 5, and 8. There, oh, your calculator won't give you those. Those will give it to you as decimals, I think. I think your calculator is going to give them as decimals, like that. So negative 1.25 plus or minus 1.56 or something like that, right? Yeah, something like that. But those aren't going to be the answers. Those are, we'll use those later on. All right, let's do this. A equals 2. B equals 5. C equals 8. D equals B squared minus 4AC, because I'm going to be using the quadratic formula. Remember quadratic formula. The way they give it is like this. And boy, this is nasty. Negative B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4AC all over 2A. So I'm going to figure out what this is. B squared is 25 minus 4 times 2 times 8. And if you type that in your calculator, I believe you get negative 39. Now, I know it had to be negative because it's saying it's got to have an I in it. So, here we go. And it has to be an A plus BI form. So, we're going to put this first and then this second. So, negative B is negative 5 over 2 times 2 plus or minus the square root of negative 39. You didn't even have to simplify a radical in this question. Over 2 times 2. So your answer is x equals negative 5 over 4 plus or minus I square roots of 39 over 4. Done. That's it. Now, in true A plus BI form, I mean, that's perfect. That got you full credit. Negative 5 plus or minus, negative 5 over 4 plus or minus I square roots of 39 over 4, that was fine. X equals negative 5 over 4 plus or minus the square root of 39 over 4I, because that's truly an A plus BI form. Any one of those three would give you full credit. All right, that's it. So there's a lot of good answers going on here. Trucks Company has decided to initiate an Employee of the Month program to determine the recipient. They put the following sign on the back of each truck. The driver who receives the highest number of positive comments wins the recognition. Explain one statistical bias. All right, there's a few that you could have done. One would be voluntary response bias. Voluntary response bias. In other words, you got all your friends to call, or, you know, you went out of your way to make this call, and who knows, maybe you had driver had all friends call the phone number and respond positively. Let's see, what other kind of answers could you have? How's my driving? I didn't grade this question. How about you could have under coverage bias if you explained it right. Under coverage bias. One, only car owners could drive it, but I don't like that one so much. But how about this one? Only people with cell phones can answer. Or how about this one, under coverage bias? Only idiots that'll drive and call at the same time would answer. Could you have... There's lots of different biases. How about the fact that maybe the truck drivers are only driving at one time during the day, so you're only hitting one section of the driving population, and maybe that driving population is so busy they don't want to answer. Or maybe some truck drivers drive in the morning and some truck drivers drive in the afternoon, and maybe the people in the morning are so busy getting to work that they don't want to do anything, but people driving home are so irritated they just want to get home and they'll make calls. Anything you said in that kind of regards will be full points. As long as you went through and you explained how it would be or how there could be bias, you could do it. I can't give you all the possible answers on that one. All right. This one we just had to divide. This is a straightforward long division question. Not bad. 3a plus minus 2. 6a cubed plus 11a squared minus 4a minus 9. All right, I like to do these in two different colored pens, so I'm going to do 2a cubed, 2a squared. Oh, 2a. Because 2a squared times 3a is 6a cubed. And 2a squared times negative 2 is negative 4a squared. You know what? Before I do this, I'm going to figure out what my remainder is going to be. I'm going to go over to my calculator. I like to have the remainder right away because I want to know when I'm done. So, and I want you to remember the remainder theorem. So the remainder theorem says if 3a minus 2 is the root, or excuse me, is the factor, then the root is positive 2/3. Right? Just solve that for a. I'm going to call it x. So 6x. I should have used a, but it doesn't matter. 6a cubed plus 11x squared minus 4x minus 9. All right, so my remainder should be negative 5. When I'm done, I better have negative 5 at the end. Minus and plus. Let me switch back colors. It should be minus, and this should be plus now. Okay, so that's 15a squared minus 4a. So I'm going to bring that down. So I got to multiply by positive 5a. So that gives me 15a squared minus 10a. Shabam. Minus and plus. So this gives me 6a minus 9. So I'm going to multiply again by 2a. So plus 2a. So it gives me 6a minus 4. Change colors, minus plus, and this gives me my negative 5, which I was hoping for. Now, it said you had to express the answer like this. We've seen this before. No big deal here. It's 2a squared plus 5a plus 5. Oh, this should not be an A here. This should be 2. Plus 5A plus 2 minus 5 over 3A minus 2. So that's the way I would have written it. You also could have written it as plus and then negative. It doesn't matter. Now, I know I believe I'm right, but I want to check it to make sure that this answer is in fact correct and I didn't screw up writing this. This is in fact the answer. But a way you could have done it is to do this. Divided by, parenthesis, 3x minus 2, parenthesis, because that's what it looks like. Oh, I forgot. You have to store any radical number into x. Control bar. I should have put it in A, but I put it in X. Enter. All right, there it is. So I get that. And then I think my answer is 2x squared plus 5x plus 2 minus, control division, 5 over 3x minus 2. I better get the same answer. And I do. So I know I'm right. I know I'm right. I knew I was right anyway. That's that one. All right, so this recursive formula, this one should have been relatively straightforward. A1 equals 3, A2 equals 1 plus 2 times the previous term, which is 3, and you get 7. A sub 3 equals 1 plus 2 times the previous term, which should be equal to 15. And then A sub 4 equals 1 plus 2 times the previous term equals 31. So that gives you plus 1. Then the question said, can this be written by an explicit geometric formula? Well, the geometric formula is this. So in order for it to work, the R value has to be the same between these two and between these two and between these two. So we have to check to see if the R value would do this. So my R value for the first one, A2 divided by A1, is 7 over 3. And I got to see if that's going to be equal to 15 over 7. Well, they're not equal. Not even close. So, no, this cannot be written as a geometric formula, as an explicit geometric formula, since the ratio between, not ration, ratio between the numbers is not the same. A lot of kids, another bunch of kids did this. They said, okay, if this is going to work, the R has to be 7/3. And they're going to say, okay, so A sub n is equal to 3 7/3 to the n minus 1. And then they said, okay, what happens when I plug in 2? 3 7/3 to the 2 minus 1, which is just 1. So this turns out to be 7. Wow, that worked. But then they got to do A sub 3. A sub 3 says it's going to be 3 times 7 over 3 to the 3 minus 1. That's squared. So that's 3 times 49 over 3. And that's 49. And since it does not generate the same sequence of numbers, it doesn't work. Oh my goodness. I cannot fathom why they made this test up. This problem is another one, just can you read and plug in numbers the right way? All right, so one of the tricky points was, this was our mortgage, but we put a down payment of $15,000. So my amount borrowed, P, is going to be 152,500 minus 15,250. So that one should have given you, I think it's $137,250. My annual interest rate is 3.6%, but you had to turn that into a decimal. We've done this all year long, 0.036. And the total of monthly payments over 30 years is 30 times 12, or 360. So this is all you had to do. You had to got to get those three numbers, and then you got to plug this thing in your calculator the right way. 137,250, 0.036 over 12. 1 plus 0.036 over 12 to the 360, all over 1 plus 0.036 over 12 to the 360 minus 1. Why would anybody rate this problem? This problem has no redeeming qualities. I can ask a 9th grader to sub these things in. Sorry, New York State, this was a stupid question. I mean, great if you got it. I mean, whatever. But, you know, why? All right, let's do this. Control division. 137,250, is that right? Parenthesis. Control division. 0.036 over 12, parenthesis. 1 plus control division. I mean, really, we had a number of kids just not type in the stuff right. They had everything over here perfect, and they didn't type in stuff right, so they only got 1 point out of 2, I think. I don't remember. I didn't grade this question. I graded this statistics question, and that was quite easy. You will see. 0.036 over 12 raised to the 360. You can see where you would have made a lot of mistakes, minus 1. And you should get 624 something. All right, instead of round to the nearest dollar, there it is. Whatever, New York State. All right, this question, I hadn't talked a lot about these, so it's kind of no, it's not my fault at all. We're exact value. There it is again. Don't put any decimals in, you silly goose. All right, we're passing through the point 2, -1. The first thing you got to know is we do our bow tie. We got to figure out which quadrant we're in. 2, -1. 2, -1, we're right here. That's the point 2, -1. So the first thing you got to do is find the hypotenuse. So 2 squared plus -1 squared equals x squared. So this is x squared equals 5, or x equals the square root of 5. And I don't remember, I didn't grade this question. I was paying attention. I think as long as you get close, I don't remember. So anyway, we know we want to find the value of sine. First of all, we're in the 4th quadrant, so we know that sine is negative. Sine is also equal to some old hippie opposite over hypotenuse. -1 over the square root of 5. There you go, kids. 2 points. Now, if you also rationalized it, good for you. I love you. You did a good job. Square root of 5 over the square root of 5. You get negative square root of 5 over 5. But New York State said this answer was fine or this answer was fine. Either one, 2 points. That's it. All right. I was so happy I did a radical question just before we did this. So you got to get the weird thing alone. So we get 6 minus 2x plus x equals 2x plus 30 minus 9. Get the weird thing alone. 6 minus 2x equals x plus 21. Square both sides. So you get 6 minus 2x equals x. You got to square both sides. x squared plus 42x plus, I believe this is 441. Let me check my notes. 441. Yep. Then I'm going to subtract these two things over. So I'm going to add 2x, and I'm going to subtract 6. So I get 0 equals x squared plus 44x plus 435. And quite frankly, done factoring. Come over here, menu, algebra, polytools. I always change this to complex. 1, 44, 435. Your answers are negative 29 plus 29. And x equals negative 15 plus 15. So those are your two answers. But because this is in fact a radical question, you must check your answers. So negative 29, control var x, square root of 6 minus 2x plus x, enter. And then 2 parenthesis x plus 15 parenthesis minus 9. Not the same. This doesn't appear to work. Now, if the other one doesn't work, we got problems. Negative. We did something wrong. Negative 15. Control var x. Negative 9. Negative 9. So the answer to the question is, in fact, just negative 15. Oh, this is the question I graded. Man, was this the easiest doggone question you've ever seen in your entire freaking life. I cannot even believe they answered this question. First of all, we did a difference of means forever. So he was curious about the cent improves memory. So here's the thing. You got to understand what's going on. He's curious to determine if cent improves memory. Scented versus unscented. A test was created whether memory is better, indicated by higher test scores. A controlled experiment was performed where one group was given the test in a scented paper and the other group was given a test in unscented paper. The summary is so. Here's the X bar or the mean. It said find the difference of means. So all you had to do was do 23 minus 18 and you get 5 plus 1. Now I'm going to come down here and look at this sample distribution. And we find out a plus 5 is right here. Now, does that seem very likely to you? No. So in the second page, let's go to the next page. They said, calculate the center middle 95%. First of all, this question is stupid because nobody does ask you for the middle 95% and then try to parlay this into a single tail test is what we're doing. But all you had to do is take the means. Remember, they gave you the mean. It's 0.03. And the standard deviation of 1.548. So we're going to take 0.030. We're going to add and subtract 2 standard deviations. And that was 1.548. So I come over to my calculator, I go 0.030 plus 2 times 1.548, I get 3.126, and I'm going to subtract 0.0030 minus 2 times 1.548, I get negative 3.66, 066. Now, it did say round to the nearest hundredths. So, and you should put this one first. So, negative 3.07 to 3.13. Now, is the difference in means in Joseph's experiment statistically significant based on the simulation? Okay. Because of the way they led you, because of the way they led you, you really just needed to say, first of all, this is normal. By normal, I mean this interval would happen due to sampling variability. So, if there was no difference in the paper, I would see most of the differences between -3 and 3. If there were no differences. We saw a difference of 5. That's huge. Huge. As a matter of fact, the way I would answer this question is, since only 3 scores, 3 out of 1,000 scores were 5 or less, this is really significant difference. In other words, scented paper is what caused it to be a better test taker. So the question says is it statistically significant? Yes, it is statistically significant. Now, most kids are going to say because the 5 is outside the 95% interval that we obtained in our previous answer, therefore it is statistically significant. That's really not the way you should have answered this question. Really, these two questions have nothing to do with each other. This is two-tail. And actually, it's more stringent than this one, which is one-tail. So here's the way you really should have answered it. You could have answered, full credit, if you said yes, it's statistically significant since 5 is outside this 95% normal area, it's statistically significant. But the best way you should have answered it is, yes, it is statistically significant. There are only 3 out of 1,000 examples, or, and of course, I know you need to do this, 3 divided by 1,000, enter, times 100. It's a 0.3% chance of happening since this is less than 5%. 5% is always the cutoff in a one-tail. 5%, we know that this can't happen due strictly to random sampling. Sampling variability. Variability. Therefore, the scented paper, well, we don't need to get in there. Therefore, it is statistically significant. Yes, it's statistically significant. There are only 3 out of 1,000 examples, or 0.3% of this chance of this happening. Since this is less than 5%, we know this can't happen strictly due to sampling variability. If you just said, yes, it is statistically significant because the 5 is outside of this 95% center, that's fine. A lot of kids put no and then said because it's outside. If it's outside, it is statistically significant. All right. Carla wants to start. This was a relatively simple question if you got the monthly stuff. And we talked about this at length. So, C of T. And I believe if you did not write C of T, because it does write, say, write a function C of T. If you don't write C of T, you don't get this point. Kind of harsh, but you don't. 63,000. 1 plus 0.0255 over 12, because it is compounded monthly, and because it's compounded monthly, we got to put over 12 to the 12 times t. That's the formula that got you 1 point. Now the question says, how long will it take to reach $100,000? So we just put $100,000 over here, equals 63,000. 1 plus 0.0255 over 12 to the 12t. We'll get the weird thing alone. We'll divide by 63,000. I like to cast out zeros, but I don't like to put this in my calculator. So they got 3 matching zeros. So I get 100 over 63 equals 1 plus 0.0255 over 12 to the 12t. Yes, I could put that in my calculator, but I like it this way. Now I'm going to take the log. I'm going to change the base. Log. It's all about that base, This is the base. And it's the base because that's the exponent. So 1 plus 0.0255 over 12. Now, logs are equal to exponents, so this is equal to 12t. So that means the 100 over 63 goes here. Divide by 12. And that's what I'm going to put in my calculator. So t equals control log, parenthesis, 1 plus control division 0.0255 over 12 of 100 divided by 63. Enter. Divided by 12. 18.1382. 18.1382. It said round to the hundreds place, so t equals 18.14. There is the answer. 2 left, kids. 2 left. Maybe 1 left. 2 left. And this was the jerk question. This was the, oh my God, what's going on question. And some of my kids said, it didn't say where to round. Where should I round? I'm like, I can't answer that question. You got to figure it out. I can't answer that question. You got to figure it out. Some kids figured it out. Most kids didn't. Now, if you didn't figure it out, you could still get 3 points out of 4. But not that easy. So here's the problem. We're going to look for average rate of change, slope. Slope is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So we're going to go graph this thing, but we have a small problem. And I don't know if it's going to come up on my calculator or not. We'll see in a minute. Graph 12 cosine parenthesis control division. You notice this is in radian mode, so your calculator better be in radian mode, which all of our calculators were, except for we had a massive problem. So there's what it is. I probably should take a look at it. Maybe change this to like 10. No. 12 plus 8. I need at least 20. Let's go 25. All right, so there's my equation. And most of you went to the table, Control T, but you didn't see this. You saw this. Crap. Oh, wait. And I'm going to have a conversation about this. If you go menu 9, settings, it should be in float mode. But if I go back to, no, this isn't going to do it either. I go, I think, that's not going to do it. How do, see, that's what bothers me about this thing. Here's what the problem is. document settings. If I put this in, oh, because our documents over here were in degree mode, when you came over to here and hit Control T, this is what you saw. Do you see how it's in degree mode? It changed back to degree mode because that's where our calculations were, and these were the numbers you saw. And I apologize if that's the way it is. I don't know how I'm going to I know how I'm going to fix this, but I got to change this back into radian mode. And then I should get the right answers. Go back, hit Control T. Hopefully I get the right answers, and then I get the right answers. And there they are, 114 and 22. So the numbers were 114 and 22. To me, they're just testing whether or not you know how to change your calculator around so it looks nice. I hate this question. But if you use those long decimals and you rounded correctly, you're fine. Should have gotten 14 minus 2 over 1 minus 2 and get negative 12. Of course, I did have a tool, write negative 12, and then box in 12. Anyway, the next question said, find the answer to the nearest tenth where from 1 to 5 where it equals 0. So if you sketch this and you said, okay, my midline is here at 8. And I have an amplitude of 12. Let's take a look and see what this thing looks like. Control T. I have an amplitude of 12 and it starts at a max and it hits down here. It looks like between 2 and 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Starts up here at 20. And it hits between 2 and 3. And it comes up back between 3 and 4. And you drew something like this. And you said, you know, that we have points of intersection here. Or this is where h of t equals 0, and you told me that you used your calculator and you used the intersect feature, so n and not but 0 feature, and you click 2.2. A lot of them went like this. I don't know why they're... All right, so you got this, right? 2.1968. So t equals 2.1968. And then the other one, do the same thing. Menu, analyze graph, 0, click. Your calculators did this because this is the way they were set up. 3.803. So t equals 3.803. It said round to the nearest tenth of a second, so my two answers are 2.2 and 3.8. And if you just said used TI Inspire, or just say I use my calculator to find when the function h of x intersected with the x-axis, and you can call them zeros. I found them to be 2.2 and 3.8. Something to that effect. You get full credit. All right. I have to be honest with you. I have never seen an easier 6-point question in my entire life. There is really only one tricky part about this whole entire question. I mean, I kept looking for another page. Where's the next page? Where are you going to ask a real meaningful question? It didn't. The only tricky part was this is X is in number of visitors in a week in thousands. So you don't plug in 16,000, you plug in 16. So P of 16 is equal to log 16 minus 4. So really it's just log of 12. You come over to your dumb calculator, and you say, okay, dumb calculator, what is the log of 12? Oops. It's base 10, but you don't need a base. My calculator is annoying. And you get 1.079. So 1.079, it said round to the nearest tenth, so this is 1.1. 1 point. Stupid. Then they wanted you to graph it. All right, let's graph it. Come over here into graph mode, control log. We don't need to put a base in because it's 10. And then it's x minus 4. And we got to graph it from, it looks like 0 to 20. So we're going to go to the table. Control T. My students, by the way, that put a asymptote here, thank you. Nice job. There was an asymptote at x equals 4. All right, so 5, 0. Oh, you guys are jerks. 5, 0 is right here. 6.3. Wait, that's 1. Halfway would be here. So 0.3 is somewhere around here. It's got to be relatively accurate. We checked. And then 7, about 0.5. I'm only going to do the evens. 8 was 0.6. 10 was 0.8. I hate it when it does it. 12 was 0.9. It's getting ugly now. 14 is 1. 16 is 1.1. 18 is 1.1. It's pretty much leveling off, and 20 is probably going to be just about the same, 1.2. So you had to draw a curve, trying to hit all those points. Oh, yeah, you can do an arrow. Didn't say you only had to use that. So an arrow's fine. And you should have labeled this P of X. This is an alternative rating model usually represented by that, where X is the number of visits in thousands again. Graph R of X on the same axis for what number of weekly visits? So R of X, so I just press tab. I'll get out of this. Control T, press tab, and I'm going to graph 0.5x minus 6, and I get that. Of course, I need to kind of get over there. Let's go to 30. All right, kind of look like that, and Control T. So I'm not anything positive. Once I get the positive, I'll be fine. There. 12, 0. Do this one a different color. Uh, 13.5. Oh, I'll just do 14. 14 is 1. 16 is 2. 18 is 3 and 4. So 3 and 4. And you could have had arrows pointing in either direction. This one would end up asymptotically, but whatever. There's the answer, 14. So, like, okay. So, for what value of weekly visits will the two models prevent the same thing? So, it's 14, right? But it's really 14,000. And that's the answer. Why that problem was worth 6 points, I have no idea. Almost like they gave up and copped out on this thing. Anyway, you needed 26 points out of 86 points to pass. Kind of ridiculous. There's the June 2018 exam. It was not a bad exam. Hopefully you all did relatively well. I hope my kids crushed this test. Proud of the way you guys worked this year. Please hit subscribe button. Please hit the like button. And please share this with your friends so we get more subscribers and we get more people viewing my videos. All right? Catch you all on the flip side. Goodbye.